As landlords in cities with rent control continue to find ways around rent control laws, an HGTV star near Los Angeles, California, has bought a 138 unit apartment complex and is evicting all the tenants so that they can rehab the property and put it at market rates. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Are you an aspiring landlord looking to buy your first rental property? Or perhaps you're a small real estate investor with one or two properties and you're trying to move up to the next level. You could use consulting, and I'm offering consulting here through Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. If you're interested, please send me an email at tony@northomahainvestments.com. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over the story of this HGTV star who bought this huge apartment complex and is evicting all of the rent controlled tenants inside. Now, I have mentioned many times before what exactly happens when these rent control laws get put into place. Well, landlords, they decide, hey, I'm not going to participate in it. I am going to remove the property from the market and we're going to get rid of all these rent controlled units. Okay. And this happens more and more often. That's why the number of rent controlled units doesn't increase. Whatever the exceptions are for new construction or whatever, that's the only properties that don't have rent control, and those are the only ones that are making any sort of money, right? And so these other units, I mean, the number is going to only go down. It's only going to decrease. And these tenants, they're living in a fantasy world. They believe that, oh, well, you know what? The landlord should want to rehab the property and then put us back in there at the same super low rent rate. No, that's moronic, okay? I mean, you would have to be a moron to think that somebody's going to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit fixing up a place and then put in the same tenants who, were paying rock bottom prices. No. Simply put, these developers and this HGTV star, I believe it's Tariq El Moussa, he's going to spend millions and millions of dollars, or his company's going to spend millions and millions of dollars fixing this place up, and they were going to want, top dollar rents for all of those millions they spent. They're not going to want, old, super cheap rents in these places. They're not building affordable housing here. Okay, nobody would have bought this place if they thought they couldn't make a profit. So yeah, I mean, I bring this kind of story up, one, because obviously, it's a celebrity who's doing this rehab, but I have this thing where I want to put awareness on why rent control doesn't work. Okay, they keep on making more and more proposals. Heck, I just did a video about how the entire state of California is going to be voting on rent control here in 2024. Okay, so I just want people to know that this sort of stuff, it doesn't work. It will only hurt development. And if these tenants, they had their way, right, then there would be no redevelopment at all. The place would just be dilapidated, falling apart, and the whole neighborhood would end up worse. So, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing when you have government putting price controls over something like rent. I mean, government price controls over anything is a bad idea. The market should be the ones that dictate how much things cost, because no matter what, it's always going to be unaffordable to somebody. That's what the main problem is. The rents could be zero and it would still be like, oh, well, I can't afford it. So the government would, what, you have to pay somebody to stay there? Like, for real, this is how bad these price controls are. And if you want to see what happens to a country that puts these artificial price controls in place, just look at Venezuela. Okay, that's why they have out of control inflation there. That it costs like millions or billions or trillions of their currency in order to buy a loaf of bread. Okay, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? So what do you think of this HGTV star evicting all these rent-controlled tenants in order to rehab the property and bring it up to market rates? Are you surprised that they're losing more rent-controlled units? I'm not. Okay, I've told you time and time again that this is bound to happen. The number of rent control units will decline as the developers and landlords convert them into condos and co-ops, or they find the few exceptions to the rule which allow them in order to get out of the system. Okay, and that's what they've seen. You know, the number of rent controlled units will not increase, and that's why they want to pass these state laws. So anyway, let's get into the article. This article is coming from KTLA.com, and it says North Hollywood residents say HGTV star is evicting them for a big flip. And there's a little video that comes with this article. I'll play part of that video for you right now.
Absolutely. Micah and Sandra, Tarek El Moussa of Flip or Flop fame, boy, that's a tongue twister, well, he wants to turn this 100-year-old apartment building into a state-of-the-art residential complex. But the people who live here say they're not going anywhere until they have some serious discussions with Tarek and company about their future.
And we're going to be building 138 units in the heart of North Hollywood. Super cool, super modern. On the rooftop, there's going to be a pool, cabana, chairs.
He calls it the biggest flip he's ever done. HGTV star Tarek El Moussa wants to turn this dilapidated apartment building that's been standing since 1925, more sturdily at certain times than others, into this hip and presumably high-priced residential community. The location is Hartsook Street in North Hollywood, walking distance from the trendy Arts District.
All right, you saw the video. Let's get into the article. A North Hollywood renter, a group of North Hollywood renters is outraged at the threat. A group of North Hollywood renters is outraged at the threat of being evicted and displaced by HGTV reality star Tarek El Moussa for a new real estate project. El Moussa is best known for the HGTV renovation series Flip or Flop, which he has co-hosted with his ex-wife Christina Hall since 2013. He launched a second show in 2020 called Flipping 101 with Tarek El Moussa. Residents of the rent-controlled apartment on Hartsook Street near the Arts District said El Moussa plans to transform the nearly 100-year-old complex into a state-of-the-art residential complex. According to El Moussa, the project called NoHo 138 would mark the biggest real estate flip he's ever attempted. In a video the reality star posted on social media, he shared plans to build 138 units with super modern decor. The building will boast a rooftop pool. And it's a 100-year-old building. I don't know if he's planning on tearing the entire thing down or if he's just going to rehab it, but 138 units is going to be extremely costly. So I'm sure that he has money from investors, and if he's putting a rooftop pool in there, modernizing the place, it sounds like it's in a very popular and very nice part of town. I don't know North Hollywood area. I don't know. I'm just I'm giving my critique of the overall project and what my personal opinions are. So the fact that there are so many units tells me that it's going to cost, tens of millions, if not over $100 million to bring this place up. Okay. So yeah, this is a very, very expensive thing. And that's why he has to get rid of those rent controlled units. Now, it doesn't make any sense for him to say, okay, well, I'm going to keep the housing affordable and I'm going to no. He's gonna try to do whatever he can to make the most profit possible. Okay, and it's unfortunate that some people they're gonna have to move and find somewhere else that they can afford. But think of it this way, right? Nothing when you don't own your house, nothing is guaranteed. At any point, the landlord could end your tenancy. I know that people in California think otherwise, right? But nothing is guaranteed. Okay. That's when the eviction notices started showing up, tenants said. But the people who live in the building said they will fight for their homes and they're not going anywhere until they're able to have a serious conversation with El Moussa and his company about their future. We're not leaving until we're treated fairly, said Naomi Klimek, a tenant. Current residents in the rent control building said the pandemic made tough times even tougher as money was tight. The new project would not only displace residents, some of whom have been living there for nearly 50 years, but tenants said it would also bring additional gentrification to an otherwise still affordable neighborhood. Well, here's my big gripe with that right there, right? Some of these tenants have been living in there for 50 years, right? So they feel entitled to the place. Well, you've been in there too long. You know what? Move along. You've gotten a great deal for the last 50 years. Did you save that extra money that were able to save through having those rent controlled prices? Did you put that in a savings account just in case something like this happened? No, you probably didn't. And then when they talk about the gentrification, remember, there is no means testing to rent control. So for all I know, the people who are living in this building right now under rent control, they're already upper middle class or higher. They could be upper class for all I know. Okay, they could be making $1 million a year living in a rent controlled unit, because rent control does not test if the person actually needs affordable housing. It's idiotic. So, move along, move along. Let this guy do what he's doing, and you find somewhere else to rent. To make matters worse, residents say they've already suffered at the hands of their previous landlord, Arthur Aslanian, who turned to violence to try to force them out. He was ultimately convicted on federal charges of blah, blah, blah. Listen, what their previous landlord did to them is pretty much irrelevant to this story. But let me skip down a little bit, because they go into how the means by which Tariq El Moussa is using to get these tenants evicted, since it is very, very difficult to remove tenants in the state of California. Tenants say they've since received Ellis Act evictions, which essentially give landlords the unconditional right to evict tenants as a legal way to go out of business. Relocation payments under the Ellis Act range from $10,000 to $30,000 per unit. The standard notice is 120 days, and seniors or disabled tenants have up to 1 year to vacate. So yeah, they basically have a law in California that says if you're getting completely out of the rental business, then you can evict these rent controlled tenants. Okay. So he's doing such a significant rehab that he's taking this entire property off of the market and getting completely out of the rental business, since he's a developer and not a landlord, right? And so he'll probably completely rehab this property, spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars doing it, and then sell it to an actual landlord, okay? Because that's how it works. He's not going to be a landlord, or he doesn't want to be a landlord, and his company doesn't want to be a landlord. And the tenants, they get paid for merely having lived there. They get relocation assistance of up to $30,000 per tenant. And they give them, depending on their age, 120 days to up to a year to find somewhere else to live. That seems fair. It seems ridiculous. I mean, in my personal opinion, is that those huge cash payments are over the top, but it seems fair based on California law. So these people, they need to move on, and they need to stop, sitting here and thinking that, oh, well, we're going to be able to squeeze more money out of this guy because he's got a TV show. Yeah, whatever, okay? Anyway, interesting article. I'll leave a link to the article down in the description, and let me know what you think.